And to our viewers, you're in the Situation Room happening now. A plane vanishes and hopes fade. This hour, breaking news about the missing Air France jet and what went horribly wrong over the Atlantic. 228 lives at stake in this airline mystery. Joining us now, a former National Transportation Safety Board Director, Peter Goelz. Peter, thanks very much for coming in.
Thank you.
What's your working assumption of what happened?
Boy, this is a real mystery, but this plane must have catastrophically broken up at altitude. There was no Mayday call by the crew, and it's off radar all of a sudden. This is a very tough one, and I think it's going to take a long time, if ever, that we're going to figure out what happened.
What could cause a plane to simply crack up at 40,000 feet?
Well, it's extraordinary. You know, we had TWA, which was a flammable fuel tank. We've had a couple of other mysterious explosions, but nothing like this.
You're talking about the TWA plane over Long Island.
Long Island, exactly.
That simply exploded or whatever.
Right. And that one went down only 9 miles off the shore and 200 feet of water. You know, and it took us 4 or 5 days to find out where it was. This one, it's the size of 2 or 3 times the size of Europe. I think they're going to have a real tough time.
Can lightning or turbulence cause a plane to explode like that?
Well, let's look at each one of those. Turbulence, these planes are certified to fly through tough weather. Other flights from South America were traveling the same airwave. They hit some turbulence, but nothing extraordinary. Tough stuff, but nothing extraordinary. And in terms of lightning, planes are hit by lightning virtually every day. They're designed to dissipate the charge. Sometimes there are problems with their electronic systems, but nothing catastrophic. On lightning, nothing catastrophic since the 1980s.
So when you say breaking up, the plane could have broken up. Does it necessarily mean an explosion that would cause that?
Well, it could have been a structural failure, but this was a new plane. It was manufactured in 2005. You know, if it were a 30 or 40-year-old plane, you might look towards some sort of fatigue issue, but this was relatively a brand new plane.
Here's what I don't understand. With the GPS technology that's out there, how is it possible we don't know where this big plane is right now? Well, because with all the pings and the pongs, you would think they would have an idea.
Well, that's one of the questions. You know, many of these planes are not flying on GPS. That's the whole issue of next generation that you might have heard about. That's going to satellite, you know, use satellite technology to track planes and air traffic control. But even today, on transoceanic flights, we don't have a very good picture of where these planes are precisely at all times. And this one, boy, I think we're going to have a hard time.
And could this plane have landed safely on the Atlantic Ocean?
No, it's virtually impossible. And what we're going to have to do is track down whatever radar data we've got, then put some ships in the area with listening devices to see if they can pick up the pinging noises from the flight data and voice recorder. They issue a tone on a certain frequency. When it's submerged, it'll last for about 30 days. They've got to get those search vessels out there as quickly as possible.
If you were running an airline now that had a flight over the Atlantic Ocean, what would you be doing, if anything, differently?
I think I'd be watching what this investigation turns up. I'd be making sure that the crew and the maintenance guys were all doing their jobs. But boy, there isn't anything you can do.
Does the U.S. get involved in this investigation at all, since it's an Air France plane flying from Brazil to France, a plane that's made by not the United States?
The U.S. will be participating because the engines were GE engines. They were U.S. manufactured engines, so the NTSB will offer support, as will the FAA. And there's good working relationships with the French investigative agency, the BEA. This will be a worldwide effort to try and uncover this.
The last communication, we're told, between the plane and ground control was something along the lines that they have an emergency underway. Is that right?
Well, it's not clear yet. What we do know is that there was a signal sent, an automatic signal sent to the operations base that said that there was an electrical issue. Now, these are sent periodically so that the plane can be maintained. It could also signify that the plane was in real distress and perhaps starting to break up.
And this was the kind of plane where the pilots are sitting there, but it's basically automatic. It's all on, it's all on, you know, just mechanical, if you will.
Yeah, this is a fly-by-wire plane. The pilots during cruise altitude are sitting there charting numbers off the flight control system. They usually do not have their hands on the stick, and this plane is a first-class aircraft.
We've all been on planes where the turbulence starts. You've been over there, especially over the Pacific or the Atlantic, and it gets a little nerve-wracking when your plane is moving along, especially if it's a big one, a jumbo jetliner or huge commercial jetliner like this one. What do the pilots normally do? They try to go up even higher and fly over the turbulence?
Well, they have forward-looking radar that they try to pick a way through the storm cell where it's least intense. And they can go up, they can go left, they can go right, they can drop down. But they try to pick a path through it that looks less intense
But the higher you go, usually it's more intense, the storm, right? And sometimes, can a plane go over 50,000 feet flying over the Atlantic?
No, the maximum altitude for a plane like this is in the low 40s. So, and the usual cruise altitude somewhere between 32 and 39,000. So, I mean, that's where you have your maximum efficiency.
Is it possible we will never know what happened to this Air France plane?
If we don't get the flight data recorders or the voice recorder back, I think it's likely that we will never know.
And given the depth of the Atlantic Ocean, it's possible that stuff is at the bottom of the Atlantic right now.
Well, you can recover it. We've recovered things as deep as 10, 12,000 feet. But the point is, the locator device only works for 30 days. We've got to find it.
So it's pinging right now.
It is pinging right now.
And it's not floating?
It is not floating. It is at the bottom of the sea.
Peter, thanks very much for coming in.
Thank you, Wolf.
Let's go to Jack Cafferty for the Cafferty File right now. Jack, that's quite a mystery.
That was quite an interview. He's a very interesting fellow. I was riveted listening to his explanation of stuff. He knows what he's talking about.
He's a former director of the NTSB.
And it shows. His expertise came through in the interview. He speaks in sentences that laymen like me can understand.